Rocky. Shh.
Hello, everyone. So let's probably just have a quick recap of what we did yesterday so that we'll be ready for the lesson or the next example that we will be looking at for today. Okay, so these were our learning intention success criteria that we discussed yesterday. So I am learning to compare data sets using statistical measures. And we did emphasize the term statistical measures. So those are your measures of center or measures of location, right? But I really just like to use measures of center because it's simple, right? And then the other one would be measures of spread, okay? Or we term them as our 3 M's and an R. And an R, right? Don't know what that end is. And an R, right? 3 M's and an R, right? 3 M's, what are they? Your mean, median, mode, and then R for the range, right? And those are what we want to calculate today, but it would be a little bit different from how we were learning them, because this time we will be calculating the 3 M's and an R from a list, data from a list, the data from a table, and also data from a graph, okay? So yesterday, what we learned would be, or looked at or recalled would be calculating the 3 M's and an R from data from a list, right? 3 M's and an R of a data from a graph, specifically a dot plot, right? But this is the one that we haven't learned, right? From yesterday, okay? So this is the one we want to emphasize for today. But let's just maybe go over all the questions that we did yesterday. Well, this is our warm-up question. You might probably just revisit your book as to what the answers are for these true or false questions, okay? And maybe come up with more examples now that you've heard other students examples of a false statement or a true statement, or maybe you can come up with a false statement and a true statement from what you learned yesterday, okay, and add that on, right? And you could probably do that for your warm-up for today, okay? Now, these were the big words that we discussed yesterday, right? Most of them we've already used before, right? Or we've learned before as well. So mean, median, mode, those are our M's, and those are what we call the measures of center, measures of location, right? So those are the different ways of calling them. I would probably want to highlight the ones that I actually want to use because they're simple, they're straightforward, they're averages, right? Gives you the center of your data. That's what it is, right? The R would be your measure of spread, which is what we call the range, okay? Now, I don't know if you remember our activity about showing us what really is it when we are looking for the mean or the average, right? And the words came from you guys that you said, well, really, getting the mean would be distributing the resources fairly to everybody, okay? And that's why we add everything up and we divide it by the number of people or the number of scores or the number of things that we actually added, right? And that's what the mean is, right? We said the median, it's the center of the data, it's a middle score, right? When our data set is arranged in ascending order. So maybe that's the first step that you want to do. Make sure that your data set is in ascending order, right? And then the last M would be the easiest one because you actually just have to look at the data set, right? And pick which one happens the most, right? Or the one with the highest frequency, that's the mode, right? The range is simply calculated by minusing the highest value, right, or the highest score, and then the lowest score, right? And we did define outlier. Outlier is simply the extremely high or the extremely low, the one that, you know, would be distorting your data or your center, right? Not your data, but your center. It pulls up your center or pulls down your center, okay? What distracts you from really focusing on what the center is, okay? So the outlier is the one that's really, really high or really, really low, okay? And these were the examples that we used yesterday. We said, what's the maximum daily temperatures in Celsius in Sydney for a fortnight in March were these numbers, okay? We want to first calculate the mean, the median, the mode, and then the range. And let me grab my calculator now. We're calculating the mean. We said to get the mean is really adding all the numbers together. So I have 34 plus 26. I really find it easier if I read the numbers going from top to bottom, right? Going that way rather than going across, okay? Because sometimes I miscount or forget where I'm at, okay? So you have 34 plus 26, 22 plus 31, 32 plus 26, 26 plus 27, 23 plus 28, 24 plus 28, 24 plus 27. And I have the total, right? So the mean, there's a special symbol for that, which is that. And we said it's the summation of x over the n, or the sum of x or sum of your scores, which is what, 378 divided by how many scores did you have? You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 2, you get 14. And therefore, 378 divided by 14 would give you 27, right? And that's our mean. How about the median? Well, it's not arranged in ascending order, and therefore we want to arrange them in ascending order. And I did tell you about writing them down into an array because it's easier for us to count them. So let's do that as well today. We have what's our smallest number or lowest value? Our lowest value, I think, is 22. And it would help when you cross them out as you go, yeah? Got 23. I think there's 2 24s that I can see. What next? There's 1, 2, 3 26s. 26, 26, 26. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my next line would be 27, 27. That's these two. Got 28, 28, that's these two. You've got 31, 32, and 34, okay? And what were my middle scores? They are the one on the first row, the rightmost one on the first row, and the leftmost one on the second row. And I want to get the middle between 26 and 27. If we can imagine it, we use our brain. If not, then we can use adding them together divided by 2. But since it's 26 and 27, we can use our brain. What's the middle between 26 and 27? That's 26.5. And therefore, that's our median, okay? How about the mode? The mode is the one that's repeated the most, which is 26, right? And we say that the mode, mode is 26, right? The range is the highest value minus the lowest value. When you calculate or when you determine your median, you already have your highest score there and your lowest score there. And therefore that's 34 minus 22, which gives us what, 12, right? Okay, and therefore that's our range. Okay, next, this is something new, right, that we learned. We would want to figure out the mean, median, mode, range, and if there is an outlier, right, from this dot plot here. Okay, let's do the first one, the mean. What does this dot plot mean? We said that for each dot, that means that's it represents one of the children there. The dot plot shows the ages of the children at Shoshana's birthday party, right? So this means that one of the children there is 1 year old, another child there is 4 years old, etc., etc. Okay, so what that means, we want to, if we want to get the mean, we add what? 1, we add 4, we add how many 5s? We add 2 5s. So instead of 5 plus 5, we can do 5 times 2, because then your next one would be 6 times how many dots are there? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many 7s are there? That's 5, 6, 7. How many 8s are there? That's 3. How many 9s? That's 2. And how many 10s? Sorry, how many 10s would be just 1, right? And then we divide that by how many dots do we have there? From memory, I think there's 22, but let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 plus 7, 17 plus 3, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 plus 5 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19. 21, 22. Yes, it's 22. Right. And therefore, what's the sum? If we put that all on our calculator, we will get plus 7 times 7 plus 8 times 3 plus 9 times 2 plus 10. We will get 146. And we divide that by 22, not 2. By 22, and we should get 6.6. Right? Correct 1 decimal place, so 6.6. Okay, and that's for us to get the mean, right? How about B, the median? Right, so the median there is the middle score. Well, we know there's 22 scores. If you can imagine them as an array, then maybe the top row would have 11, the bottom row would have 11 as well. So you're looking for the 11th and the 12th score. So let's count that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Those are your 2 middle scores, and they both are 7. And therefore, our median is 7. Okay. And then C, we've got the mode. What's the most frequent? The most frequent is actually your tallest score, right? Which is, what's the tallest score? It's 7. Okay. And then D, our range, it's the highest score minus the lowest score, which is kind of straightforward when you're given a dot plot. Okay, so 10 minus 1 is equal to 9. And then the last one is E, right? And we said the outlier there, when you have a dot plot, it's the one that doesn't have a neighbor, right? Because we did say it's the very, very high and the very, very low, right? Although you say 10 is a high number, right? But it's got a neighbor here, right? So you can't say that's an outlier. But if you look at the lowest number or the lowest value, the one there doesn't have a neighbor. If it has a gap, right, that's as wide as this one here, then that means that is an outlier. Okay, therefore your outlier would be. Okay, now the one that we did not do, right, because we practiced some more calculating the mean, median, mode of from a list and also from a dot plot. The one that we didn't do yesterday was this one here, right? It's calculating the mean, median, and mode, and maybe the range of of a data that's from a table. In this case, there's a special name for this, which is, we use the 3 letters FDT, which stands for frequency distribution table, right? It's a table that shows how the scores would be distributed, okay? or what would be the frequency of each of the scores. Okay, so that's what you would find in a frequency distribution table. All right, so for this example, it says the scores of Year 9 students giving a speech in English out of 10 are shown in the frequency table. How many students were there? Right, so your first step, how many students were there, is for you to add the frequency, right? If you add 2, 5, 10, 36, 25, 13, 4, and 3, that's the total number of students. I don't know if you got 98 as well, but I got 98. But let's just check 2 plus 5 plus 10 plus 36 plus 25 plus 13 plus 4 plus 3. Right, that's 98. Okay, so we write 98. Use an FX column to calculate the mean score. What does it mean to say an FX column? FX means F times X. So we would need to have another column here. FX means F times X. I usually want to write it as really F times X to remind myself that I need to multiply the frequency with a score, right? Frequency times the score, 2 times 3 is 6, 5 times 4 is 20, 10 times 5 is 50, 36 times 6, according to my calculator, is 216. 25 times 7, that's 175. 8 times 13 is 104. 9 times 4, I'm getting lazier and lazier, and is 36. And then 10 times 3 is 30, right? Now, the other thing we want, right, would be for us to calculate the mean score, right? So we want to find the summation of fx, okay? What's the sum of all these numbers? So we have what? 6 plus 20 plus 50 plus 216 plus 175 plus 104 plus 36 plus 30. That's 637, okay? So for us to figure out the mean from a frequency table or frequency distribution table, this time we want the sum of fx divided by the sum of f, okay? So that in our problem here, that's 637 divided by 98. Let me just check my addition so I don't confuse you when you do your work. And that's what statisticians do, right? They check and check whether they got the answers right, okay? So 637, we want to divide by 98, and that's equal to 6.5. And therefore, our mean is 6.5, okay? The mode is the most frequent. That's easy to find when you have a table. That would be the one that would have the highest frequency, right? The one that occurs the most, yeah? Now, which one is the mode? Is it 6 or is it 36? Always go back to what the score is, and therefore the score that happened the most is not 36, but it's 6. 6 happened 36 times, okay? So that the mode is 6. And what is the range? You look at the highest score minus the lowest score. 10 minus 3 would give you 7. Okay, now the next one is calculating the median. Now this one here might be just an extension for today, right? The cumulative frequency, it's usually shortened as CF. So it accumulates every row, right? You look at the frequency, you add it each time, okay? You add the next row each time, or the previous row each time. So there is no previous row from 2, and therefore it's just 2. Now you add 2 and 5, you get 7. 7 and 10, you get 17. 17 and 36 would give you 53. 53 and 25 would give you 78. 78 plus 13 is 91. You're most welcome to use the calculators, right? and you've got 95, and plus 3, you get 98. Okay, if your number here, right, does not match your number here, then you would have done your cumulative frequency wrong. Okay, so we don't have to check this now because then we got the right answer there, right? So how do you use the cumulative frequency column for you to figure out the median? Well, remember the median is the middle score, right? So if you've got 98 scores, what's half of 98? Half of 90 is 45, half of 8 is 4. So 45 and 4 would give you 49. So we're actually looking for the 49th score, 49th score and actually the 50th score, but sometimes it doesn't matter anymore. So let's just have a look at the 49th and the 50th score. Where is that number? Well, the cumulative frequency would tell you that your first and your second number is 3, right? Your third up to the 7th number is 4. Your 8th up to your 17th number is 5, right? Your 18th up to your 53rd number, right, is 6. And since we're looking for the 49th and the 50th, what can you say about the median? It's right here, right? Because this one here would be when you have what? Your 18th up to the 53rd, up to the 53rd score, right? And 49 and 50 would be between 18 and 53, and therefore your median would be 6. Okay, so what you want to do today, if we'll be looking at the exercises that you have there, right? You'd surely be able to do from question 1 up to question, up to question 11, right? Using the examples that we did yesterday, and for the new example that you learned today, then you'd be able to complete questions 12 up to the last question there. Okay, so once you get the hang of it, maybe you just do, maybe I'll just choose A and not do B if you're sure that you were able to demonstrate, right, our success criteria there. If you wish to do both, then that would be more awesome. Okay, right, so do those questions, right? If you have more time, you might want to have a look at the extension activity that's on page 324 of the textbook, of the New Century Maths textbook. Okay, and if you have any questions about the work, you're welcome to email me, right? And then I'll get back to you as soon as I can, right? Okay, you stay awesome. I'll see you next lesson. Bye.
Come on, Rocky, let's go.